We have looked at many forms of early development: the development of neurons in the brain, the development of language and the ability to read, and the development of cognition. Now, I would like to shift to look at two views of the development of the personality. Interestingly, the authors of these two theories knew each other and worked together in various capacities. Accordingly, there's a certain overlap between their theoretical perspectives. However, we will see that Erikson looked at social interactions through the life cycle, while Freud tended to focus on internal factors that occurred principally in childhood and adolescence. Sigmund Freud was born in 1856 and trained in Austria as a physician with a special focus on neurology. Freud founded the field of psychoanalysis, basing his theories on the stages of development children go through, with particular emphasis on the development of sexual awareness. He saw many forms of mental illness as resulting from emotional trauma experienced during these childhood stages. The first stage in Freud's model he refers to as the oral stage and spans from birth to about 2 years of age. As children nurse and feed, principally with their mouth during this time period, their awareness of pleasure in this stage focuses on the mouth. In the second stage, from about 2 years to 4 years, a child attains bowel control and focuses more attention on sensations in the anus. Freud's phallic stage is from the age of about 4 until about 7, when children become aware of pleasurable sensations from touching the genitalia. Children then enter a latent stage between the ages of 7 and the onset of puberty. With puberty, they enter the genital stage, the final stage in Freud's theory. In this stage, adolescents become aware of and begin to act on feelings of sexual attraction. Psychoanalysis is still practiced, but many mental health professionals have come to see Freud's theories as incomplete. Erik Erikson was born in Germany and had a somewhat troubled childhood. As a young man, he moved to Vienna and became personally acquainted with Sigmund Freud and Freud's wife, Anna. Based on this association, Erikson trained as a psychoanalyst without actually attending medical school. Erikson took more of a social and cultural perspective on child development, developing his own theories of psychological development that were similar in many ways to those of Freud, while also different in important ways. Erikson focused on the ways children developed changing perceptions of themselves based on their interactions with others around them, both those in the family and those in the surrounding social context. Erikson paid special attention to the adolescent period as the time when individuals tend to form their own personal identities they tend to carry with them throughout life. Erikson extended his theory to include the stages of adulthood coming after adolescence. Erikson called the various stages of development the 8 stages of man. The first stage goes from birth to about 1.5 years old. Here is where a child learns trust through positive interactions with the mother or mother surrogate. A stressful interaction with the mother can result in a child coming out of this stage with an internalized sense of distrust of other people. The next stage goes from about age 2 to age 3 and involves a child developing a sense that he or she is capable of action independent of their mother. This sense of autonomy and independence provides a positive base for future development. Experiencing difficulties in this stage might result in a child doubting his or her own innate abilities and developing a sense of shame. The third stage covers the years from about age 4 through 6. Here, a child builds on his sense of independent action and begins to do things on their own initiative rather than relying on parents to give direction. If a child does not develop this sense of initiative, he may develop a sense of guilt about actions taken independently. Stage 4 covers the pre-adolescent years, from age 7 through age 12 or so. In these years, the child is learning all types of new things and begins to develop a sense of self-confidence, often reinforced through parental praise and encouragement. Problems experienced during this developmental period might lead to the child developing a sense of inferiority when compared to others her own age. Stage 5 covers the adolescent years from about age 13 through age 19. It is during these years that an adolescent develops a sense of personal identity, separate from and independent of his parents. In answering the question, "Who am I?" adolescents look to role models both among the adults in their social environment and among their peer group. An adolescent that has difficulty during this period may never fully develop a sense of identity and may enter adulthood confused about who they are and who they aren't. They then enter stage 6, spanning the early adult years. Here is where people tend to look for and enter into committed romantic relationships, often as the basis for starting their own family and having their own children. If a person enters this period with difficulties in one's sense of identity and autonomy, developed during earlier periods, it may be difficult to develop a sense of intimacy with one's partner, and as a consequence, one may feel isolated. The middle-aged years make up stage 7, in which a person invests their energy in doing something worthwhile, perhaps in a profession or occupation, perhaps in one's family, perhaps in one's community, and perhaps in a combination of these endeavors. If a person has been unable to develop a sense of purpose and a means of expressing that sense, he or she may feel as though he has stagnated in life and may be prone to developing a sense of sadness or depression. The final stage in Erikson's model is often identified as starting at age 65, but more realistically coincides with when one retires from his or her lifetime work. As one looks to a looming old age, he or she can easily ask, "What have I done with my life? Have I accomplished something worthwhile? Or have I wasted the chances I had?" Absent a sense of having done something worthwhile, a person at this stage of life is at risk of developing a deep sense of sadness or despair. Perhaps these types of thought is what Robert Frost was thinking about when he wrote in his poem, "I will be saying this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." Somehow, I don't think Robert Frost had anything to worry about regarding having had a meaningful life. Through whichever lens we elect to use, we can see that the early stages in which a child develops his or her cognitive abilities and psychological traits are crucially important to one's sense of self and the world. How we behave in childhood, in adolescence, and in the various stages of adulthood will depend to a substantial degree on the experiences we had during our early development. Experiencing abuse, emotional trauma, or other forms of excessive stress can impact in powerful ways the patterns of behavior we adopt and the effects of that behavior on the well-being we experience throughout life.